The early 2000s were a pretty good time for gaming. By 2001, the 6th generation had come underway, with the big 3 gaming companies releasing a new console each. Sony had the PlayStation 2, Nintendo had the GameCube, and Microsoft had the original Xbox. These new systems had massively improved visuals, hardware, and controls. There was very little overlap between each system too. Each console had something different to offer everyone, complete with their own catalog of unique games. Even the handheld market had gotten some nice attention with the success of the Game Boy Advance and the variety of games it had available on it. During this time period, both Nintendo, Sony, and even Sega were known entities in the console war. Microsoft was just getting started with the Xbox. People adored the consoles that brought them games like Super Mario 64 and Spyro. The competition looked steep, and Microsoft would have to deliver something big in order to compete with them. So today, I want to talk about a game that did just that, as well as launch the Xbox, create a billion-dollar franchise, and made these two characters into gaming icons. That's right, I'm talking about Halo Combat Evolved.
He's hot! Blowing the pins in 5!
What's up guys, Kenjamin here, and welcome to From Beginning to End, where we're going to take a thorough look into Halo C's story and gameplay starting from the beginning, all the way to the very end. To prepare for this review, I played both the original game developed by Bungie and Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary by 343 Industries and Saber Interactive. Anniversary is a remastered version of Combat Evolved and is basically the same game as the original, with updated graphics painted over it. It also includes new additions such as an updated score, sound effects, achievements, skulls, terminals, and more. 343 Industries wanted to have Halo feel like a more modern game without changing the core gameplay crafted by the original creators at Bungie. This review will also cover some of the updates made in the Anniversary version of the game.
The number one requirement was that it didn't impact gameplay at all.
You have a classic, you have something that's just magical, right? If you go and tinker with it, you're going to lose that magic.
What we really needed was someone who could work with our existing physics and gameplay engine.
Saber popped up really quickly. They're like, yeah, we can do this. We can make the game look like a current generation game, and we can do it by using the original Halo 1 engine.
At the time of its original release, Halo revolutionized console first-person shooters, and to better see this impact, I will compare it to games that were released around the same time period, such as 007 Nightfire and Time Splitters 2, as well as games that came out before and after to get a better picture of its impact. The games I will compare it to are by no means bad and were well received when released and are still fun to play to this day. I'm only using them as examples to show how far ahead of its time Halo really was. So keep in mind, I enjoy every game I'm going to reference here. Even before playing the game, I love the little details such as the descriptions for each difficulty in the campaign. They could have easily just had an easy, normal, hard,
Kid mode!
but they went the extra mile with these descriptions. And I think it adds to the charm of the game as well as giving players a good idea of what to expect with each difficulty. I particularly like the legendary description of alien tongues laughing at your efforts to survive. This is suicide. And honestly, after replaying it this way, they have a point.
You're gonna get hurt.
Before we go any further, there will be tons of spoilers in this video, so spoiler warning. Now, let's get started with the game at hand from the very beginning.
Thanks a lot for coming, and welcome to Halo on the Xbox.
The game opens with a peculiar ring-like object in space when a ship called the Pillar of Autumn slowly approaches it. The ship's captain, Captain Keyes, is having a conversation with a shipboard AI named Cortana. They are being pursued by humanity's greatest threat, an alien alliance called the Covenant. Things look bleak for the Pillar of Autumn, and Captain Keyes gives the order for Cortana to prepare the ship for combat. Meanwhile, Sergeant Johnson preps the ship's marines with a motivational speech that differs depending on the difficulty you selected. The higher the difficulty, the better the speech.
Men, keep your eyes downrange, fingers on your triggers, and we all go home in one piece. Am I right, Marines?
That was on easy mode. Now let's hear the legendary speech.
Man, we let those dumb bugs out to the middle of nowhere to keep them from getting their filthy claws on Earth. But we stumbled onto something that's so hot for that they're scrambling over each other to get it. Well, I don't care if it's God's own anti-son of a bitch machine or a giant hula hoop. We're not gonna let them have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
They're Damn right I am. Now move it out. Double time.
The legendary difficulty speech is the best for obvious reasons. The game knows you'll need a good pep talk on the game's most challenging setting. It's finally time to wake up the ship's greatest weapon, the Master Chief. On easy and normal difficulty, the game makes you play a brief tutorial, first teaching you how to look and move around, and then introducing you to the shield mechanic the game utilizes. Prior to this, most games just use the health and armor system. While the Chief still has a health bar and will need to find health packs throughout levels in order to heal,
Keep your head down, there's two of us in here now, remember?
the implementation of a regenerative shield over the health bar allowed the player more breathing room after receiving damage. This makes the game more forgiving at times and helps with the pacing as well. The player will spend less time constantly searching for a med kit when health is low and spend more time progressing through the level. It really is a genius move, and it's no wonder why many other games still borrow this mechanic to this very day. One of the things I love about Anniversary is the ability to switch between old and new graphics with the push of a button. While some of the updated graphics are a departure from the art style of the original game, I mostly enjoy them. I'll get to some of the strengths and weaknesses of the updated graphics when we reach the other levels of the campaign. One of the pros of the updated visuals is that it's the key to collecting some of the bonus content I mentioned earlier. Skulls have been present in Halo as collectibles since Halo 2, and acted as gameplay modifiers that can be activated for the campaign since Halo 3. The skulls added in Anniversary can only be seen and collected if played with the updated graphics on. The skulls are a nice addition of trademark content from the Halo series that can now be played on the first game thanks to the Anniversary and Master Chief Collection version of the game. On Heroic and Legendary, there is no tutorial, and the attack on the ship begins immediately.
Come on, we've got to get the hell out of here.
Positions Alpha through Sierra. Sensors show
This way.
inbound Covenant.
You must make your way to the ship's bridge to meet with Captain Keyes, while the ship is under attack by the Covenant. All while not having a single weapon to defend yourself with either. Luckily enough, your fellow Marines will protect you. You'll learn to love them even though they're mostly glorified meat shields. This is probably the only time you'll see them hold off an enemy like this.
But really, this whole first part of the game, when you're on your ship, the Pillar of Autumn, this big, massive, kilometer-long cruiser, you are essentially being boarded by the aliens, and we really wanted to give the player in real time that feeling of panic, terror as the aliens tear through your ship.
One thing that I need to mention really quickly is about Halo Reach. Halo Reach is a prequel that takes place right before the events of this game. It's not necessary to play it first, as it came out almost 10 years after Combat Evolved, but things blend nicely from Halo Reach's ending to Halo CE's beginning. Think of it as how Star Wars Rogue One leads nicely into the original Star Wars, even though those movies came out 39 years apart from each other. What's important to know about Halo Reach is that at the time of Anniversary's development, it was the most recent Halo game. When updating the graphics, a lot of the designs were adapted assets from that game.
In a lot of ways, it was a very, very fine balancing act. Because again, we're running all the original Halo 1 animations, so it's the original Halo 1 skeletons for those characters needed to be rebound into the updated meshes that we had brought over from Halo Reach and from Halo 3.
Also, if you've played it, it gives some nice background to the narrative when you have the added context from Halo Reach's story.
Captain Keyes.
Once you finally make it to the bridge, you get your orders from the captain. And let me just say that I love both the Chief's and Captain Keyes' updated design. It's clear that the developers put in a lot of time to make sure they got the Chief's design right here. And I think it was well worth it. I wish I could say the same for Cortana, however. She doesn't look terrible, but it's disappointing that they used a weaker version of her Halo 3 design. I wish they either updated her original design or just came up with a new design entirely. Even her animation at times looks worse than the original game that is 10 years older.
All right then. I'm initiating Cold Protocol Article 2. We're abandoning the Autumn. That means you too, Cortana.
While you do what? Go down with the ship?
In a manner of speaking. The object we found, I'm gonna try and land the Autumn on it.
With all due respect, sir, this war has enough dead heroes.
Something he knows all too well.
Lieutenant, get aboard! We gotta get the hell out of here!
Negative. I have the gun. Good luck, sir.
Good luck to you, Spartan.
I appreciate your concern, Cortana, but it's not up to me. The protocol is clear. Destruction or capture of a shipboard AI is absolutely unacceptable, and that means you're leaving ship.
Captain Keyes gives Chief and Cortana the responsibility of looking after each other. The iconic duo is together at last, with orders to escape the ship and find their way onto the ring.
Your architecture isn't much different from the Autumn's.
Don't get any funny ideas.
I'm going to be saying this a lot, but Captain Keyes is an absolute badass for staying on the ship while it's under attack without his genius AI and super soldier on board.
Don't keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find ammo as you go.
He even gives you arguably the most powerful weapon in the game if you watch the cutscene without skipping it.
Wildly overpowered. 3 shots to the head from anywhere on the map will kill anything.
Before you leave the bridge, there's more stuff you can do, like...
Surrender now and I might let you live.
Security to the bridge. The Master Chief has gone rampant. Take him down, boys.
I really like how Cortana has a scripted line for when you do this. It's impossible to complete the mission now, though. It's just kind of a funny moment. You can also find the first hidden terminal on the bridge. Terminals are yet another piece of content that were added for Halo Anniversary. Terminals have been around since Halo 3 and have existed in different forms for many Halo games ever since. In Anniversary, there are animated cutscenes that mostly give background information on a character we'll meet later on in the game. They're interesting, but they really dig into Halo's lore and can be kind of confusing for newcomers, and even spoil parts of the game if you find them too early, so I won't focus on them too much here. There is an amazing terminal later on though, but we'll get to that one in due time.
How many of these have you found? Those Marines could use some help, Chief. Do what you do best.
Now it's finally time to enter our first battle. The first fight will be against Grunts and Elites in an open arena. Grunts are the Covenant's cannon fodder. They are weak and can be easily disposed of with headshots, but they can be tricky in larger groups on higher difficulties. The Elites, however, are strong, intelligent, and can be difficult to take down. They have energy shields like the Chief and are much more lethal than the Grunts under their command. Now to win this first battle, it's important to understand the methods you have available for inflicting damage to your opponents. You have guns, melee attacks, and grenades. You can only hold 2 guns at any given moment, and while that's standard in games now, this was something very new at the time. Let's look at 007 Nightfire. James Bond was able to pick up any gun you found with no limits or drawbacks, something that many other games followed as well.
Wow, this is such a guy's room.
With only 2 guns at your disposal, encourage players to learn the weapons of the game so that they could find weapon pairs that best complemented each other in any given situation. This made the game more challenging, but in a good way. It rewarded players for their clever decision making. Take the noob combo for example, using a charged plasma pistol's EMP to eliminate an elite shield, then delivering the final blow with precision headshots with the pistol. Understanding your arsenal and your opponents is the key to success when playing a Halo game. It's also nice not having to cycle through a bunch of useless guns just to get to the weapon that you want.
So many guns, I don't know which one to use.
Now for the other 2 methods of combat, melee hits and grenades. In Halo, grenades had its own button assigned for grenade throws. No longer would you have to equip the grenade in order to throw one. In Nightfire, not only did you have to cycle through your inventory to get to the grenades, but look how awkward it was throwing them compared to Halo.
Turn and stay close.
Timesplitters 2 had grenades that were smoother than Nightfire, but they were only available when paired with certain weapons. And don't get me started on the awkwardness of melee attacks in those games. These games came out after Halo, and console first-person shooters didn't start to follow this blueprint until a few years later. A blueprint that set the standard in 2001 that is still being used in AAA games today. The rest of the level mostly consists of fighting along the ship's many corridors. But one of the interesting things I've noticed when replaying was how gradual the game takes off the training wheels when you're learning how to play for the first time. The first room gives you tons of Marine support. The area after that, the Covenant lifeboats that drops enemies supply you with overshield. The next 3 areas are identical, but take away something each time. The first stop gives you Marine support and cover. The one after that just gives you Marine support, but no cover. And after that, it's just a pilot who dies almost immediately and you're left alone to fight. I appreciate that this level manages to teach the player how to play without feeling like a tutorial level. Near the end of the level, you pass by the cryo chamber you started in.
It looks like the Covenant wanted to catch you napping.
And with anniversary graphics turned on, you can also see that Spartan Linda was also aboard the Pillar of Autumn.
Affirmative.
Being consistent with Halo's expanded lore are some of the neat things 343 and Saber were able to add with this remaster that were not a part of the original game. The level ends with Chief and Cortana barely making it on a lifeboat.
One last lifeboat. Quickly, get aboard before it launches. Now would be a very good time to leave.
Punch it.
Ah, sir. We're disengaged, going for minimum safe distance.
The Pillar of Autumn is a very solid first level. It introduced us to the main characters and gave us a taste of some of the great gameplay Halo has to offer without revealing its entire hand. We've barely scratched the surface. The game has plenty of mystery and intrigue that is left to be uncovered by the player and the game's heroes as they descend onto the mysterious ring world.
If I still had fingers, they'd be crossed.
We're gonna make it, aren't we, sir? I don't want to die out here.
We'll be fine.
12 seconds later.
others. The impact. There's nothing we can do.
Previously on Lost.
I'm losing her. Brace for impact!
When you first land, you're the only survivor from your lifeboat. As you exit and take your first steps onto the ring, you experience one of gaming's most iconic moments.
It's beautiful.
When you first saw Halo, were you blinded by its majesty?
The look and design of the original ring still look amazing to me. While the colors and lighting are different in Anniversary, it also looks breathtaking in its own way. The attention to detail in the skybox, in addition of the islands in the distance, breathe more life into this mysterious world. Well, you won't get much time for sightseeing, as the Covenant are looking for survivors.
Warning. I've detected multiple Covenant dropships on approach.
As you make your way around, you'll find a group of Marines that you'll need to protect.
It's a mess, sir. We're scattered all over this valley.
Enemies will come into the battle in waves via dropship, a clever way of spawning enemies in this outdoor environment. A new enemy is also here to fight. The Jackals. Jackals are shield-wielding defensive enemies. Just like the elites, they are vulnerable to plasma-based weaponry. Just like the grunts, they cower and run away when a situation looks hopeless, and they go down just as easily with headshots if you manage to expose them. A new weapon is also available on this level.
For your consideration.
Beware.
Alien space lasers are not new or exclusive to Halo, but they neither always felt unique, even compared to other Covenant weapons. The projectiles it fires are homing and follow your targets. They can also cause an explosion called a super combine if 7 or more projectiles make contact with an enemy. After clearing out the Covenant, a friendly pilot named Philhammer comes to extract the surviving Marines. He drops you off a Warthog so Chief and Cortana can find and save other Marines in the area.
Okay, Charlie Team, Warthog deployed. Saddle up and give them hell.
Driving in first-person shooters wasn't exactly new in Halo. GoldenEye had a tank level, Perfect Dark had a hover bike, and Agent Underfire had car levels. Point is, Halo didn't invent this. It just took an existing formula and perfected it. Almost perfected it. While driving is fun in the other games, they weren't as smooth at transitioning between both modes of gameplay as they were in Halo. You had the option to engage in combat on foot or by vehicle. You were never restricted by having a vehicle-only section. In addition to all that, the player had the freedom to search any part of the map they wished to explore. A lot of the time, the vehicles weren't even mandatory when they were made available. You could just hoof it instead if you wanted. Hell, there's even an achievement for it. Now I'm going to attempt to defend this infamous line by Cortana. You know the one.
This cave is not a natural formation. Someone built it, so it must lead somewhere.
Apparently, the cave was originally intended to look like a real cave. Cortana's line was a way of indicating to the player and Chief only she could tell that the cave is artificial and not natural, and reassure you that you're going in the right direction. Unfortunately, the developers didn't have the time to design a realistic looking cave, so they went with the simple artificial design you see here. However, Cortana's line stayed in the game, even though it seems silly given how blatantly obvious her observation is. Cortana is a super smart AI that can easily see through artificial illusions.
I can give you over 40,000 reasons why I know that sun isn't real.
If this part was executed as originally intended, it could have been a cool moment emphasizing how advanced Cortana really is. Unfortunately, this part ended up being so silly that even the developers themselves can't help but make fun of it.
Now here's my favorite line in the game.
I don't know if they show it.
Yeah, no, we show it. Here it comes.
This cave is not a natural formation.
It's not? It's not a natural formation?
I don't believe it.
No duh.
During the cooldown periods as you explore the ring, Cortana will occasionally chime in and give the player some exposition.
I've hacked into the Covenant battle network. They're actually broadcasting tactical data on unencrypted channels. We should show them who they're dealing with. Master Chief, I'm going to use your suit's transcom system to monitor their chatter. There's new traffic on the Covenant battle network. A lot more crew made it off the Autumn than I had predicted. The captain really gave them hell. If we can find Captain Keyes and the other survivors, we have a chance to coordinate an effective resistance.
I really like having exposition and your mission objectives presented to you in this way. It's both realistic and helpful as you learn about the global or ring world-like situation of things. Something that 007 games also did effectively by having mission priorities and objectives given to you by M.
007, the guests won't take kindly to firearms. Keep them hidden to maintain a low profile.
I wish Timesplitters 2 followed this as well, instead of just a checklist.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Now all that's left is to find and save the rest of the Marines. They can be found in 3 different areas and can be saved in any order. It's pretty similar to before, where you have to fight a few waves of enemies before Foe Armor picks them up.
Roger, Cortana. On my way.
There's our ride.
After saving everyone, the level ends and it's time to go rescue Captain Keyes. Or you can just brutally kill them all.
We didn't rescue any of the Marines. 100% casualties. They're all dead. We didn't save them.
And the level still ends. It's actually faster this way because the level allows you to proceed without having to clear out all the Covenant in each section. This game doesn't hold you to the same standard of keeping your NPC pals alive as some other games do, but you feel kind of bad about it. I hope. All in all, another solid level. The gameplay of the first level is primarily focused on close quarters combat, whereas level 2 mostly focused on wide open areas and vehicle sections. The Warthog may not be as good as racing games of the early 2000s, but it's still very impressive, especially for a game that's primarily an FPS. Now, I generally want to stay positive for this video, but still be able to call out the flaws where I see them. I enjoyed the updated graphics for this level, but it probably would have been better to keep the colors and designs closer to the original. But it doesn't look too overdone yet, in my opinion. A lot of Halo's architectures doesn't look too far off from the designs we'll see in Halo 3. There are occasions where the updated graphics alter the look and feel of the game that the original game wasn't really going for, and that can bleed over into the gameplay and cause issues there as well. I played the original so many times that when I first played Anniversary, getting lost was never really an issue for me because I remembered where everything was. However, when I watched a friend who has never played before, they got lost during the tunnel section of this level, and I think I understand why. If you've never played this before, would you know where the game wants you to look without directly telling you? Maybe, maybe not. The Anniversary version is very bright and pretty with a ton of added and frankly, maybe some unneeded details that makes things look kind of muddled at times. The original developers were very deliberate with their lighting, which would make it easier to identify points of interest. Can you see the difference now? I still don't think Anniversary is too bad here though, and I'd still argue that it's closer to a Halo 3-like design than some of the over-designs of some of the later games.
The enemy has captured Captain Keyes and are holding him aboard one of their cruisers, the Truth and Reconciliation. The ship is currently holding position approximately 300 meters above the other end of this plateau.
So how do we get inside the ship if it's in the air? The Corps issued me a rifle, not wings.
There's a gravity lift that ferries troops and supplies between the ship and the surface. That's our ticket in.
This mission, the Truth and Reconciliation, starts off like a covert operation. You get a sniper rifle, and it looks as though this level will encourage a stealthy playthrough. But that kind of goes out of the window after the first passage. The area in the beginning is really the only place where you can pick off enemies without them immediately noticing you. In the first opening, you witness yet another beautiful sight, one that I think that's better than the original. It's clear that 343 put a lot of effort in their skyboxes.
And Truth and Reconciliation is one of the best examples I can give. If you come to that first interaction and then you make your way towards a cliff, you can look up and see this unbelievable skybox. And so having all these updated graphics has really made the game, to me, just more immersive.
The mission is simple. Break into the Covenant ship via grav lift in order to find and rescue Captain Keyes. But it won't be easy. Another foe is here to stop you. Hunters are like the game's mini-bosses and are always in pairs. They can be taken down easily with a pistol if you know where to shoot. But there are no pistols on this level. The game really forces you to get good with a sniper rifle, as it's the only precision weapon you'll get here. So, use it wisely. But Truth and Reconciliation is a nice contrast from the Pillar of Autumn, where you get to break into an alien ship this time. You're really in the belly of the beast though. The first room can be absolutely miserable and legendary. Multiple invisible elites equipped with energy swords come to attack you and your Marines. Your allies are almost completely useless and are basically glorified meat shields whose only purpose is to distract the enemy while you line up a headshot. So I highly recommend saving plenty of sniper ammo for this section. You'll need it.
Invisible sword elite!
Oh,
How many Sword Elites came out on Legendary difficulty? Does anybody remember?
No, I don't.
Paul Bertone, who's not here to answer for his crimes.
Legendary was the worst on Legendary.
After traversing through the ship, you'll eventually find the cell block holding the captain.
Coming here was reckless. You two know better than this. Thanks. While the Covenant had us locked up in here, I overheard the guards talking about this ring world. They call it Halo.
Captain Keyes is once again a badass, not only for surviving up until this point, but also knowing Sangheili, the Covenant language. I understand that he might just have a neural implant or something that can translate what the guards are saying, but we know that other characters in the Halo universe understand Sangheili.
How'd you learn to speak Sangheili, Vale? When I was a kid, I was stuck on a diplomatic shuttle adrift in deep space for 6 months. My options would be real bored or spend time getting smart.
So I don't think that it's too far-fetched that an officer like Captain Keyes would understand the language as well.
One moment, sir. Accessing the Covenant BattleNet. According to the data in their networks, the ring has some kind of deep religious significance. If I'm analyzing this correctly, they believe that Halo is some kind of weapon, one with vast, unimaginable power.
Apparently cutscenes like this, that had the camera idle on Chief while Cortana was speaking, made people believe that Chief was actually a woman. Something similar happened to Metroid fans when they reached the end credits for the first time. Only if they beat the game under a certain time, though.
That's true. The Covenant kept saying that whoever controls Halo controls the fate of the universe.
Now I see. I have intercepted a number of messages about a Covenant search team scouting for a control room. I thought they were looking for the bridge of a cruiser that I damaged during the battle above the ring. But they must be looking for Halo's control room.
That's bad news. If Halo is a weapon, and the Covenant gain control of it, they'll use it against us and wipe out the entire human race. Chief, Cortana, I have a new mission for you. We need to beat the Covenant to Halo's control room. Marines, let's move!
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Now comes the escort mission part of this level. I love Captain Keyes, and I think he's a good leader.
A man like you I'd follow into combat blindfolded. And I wouldn't be the first.
But he should really stand behind Chief for this one.
Game over.
Yeah, this part can get pretty annoying. Captain Keyes can't help but get in the way of fire and causes you to revert to a checkpoint every time he dies. With all the advancements that Bungie made with Halo, it's surprising that this escort section is comparable to some of the frustrating Italian missions from GoldenEye.
We're screwed! We're screwed, man!
Not that Time Splitters 2 or Knifefire are much better.
Wait here.
Let's get moving.
Fortunately, this section doesn't go on for too long. The escort mission finally comes to an end when you commandeer an enemy ship. And the captain redeems himself with this line.
Give me a minute to interface with the ship's controls.
No need. I'll take this bird out myself.
Captain! Hunters!
Hang on.
Nice one, sir!
Keyes is a badass.
Little payback.
The Silent Cartographer. Probably one of the best and most beloved Halo levels, not just from Combat Evolved, but from the entire franchise. And it's not difficult to see why.
The Covenant believe that what they call the Silent Cartographer is somewhere under this island. The Cartographer is a map room that will lead us to Halo's control center. The island has multiple structures and installations. One of them contains the map room.
We're approaching the LZ. It's gonna be hot. Get set to come out swinging. Touchdown! Hit it, Marines!
The level opens with the iconic Halo theme as you and your Marines storm the beach and take down the Covenant. It's an awesome start to a great level. For the first time in the game, you feel like you're on the offensive for once. The goal here is to find Halo's map room so that we'll know where to find Halo's control room. Hopefully before the Covenant. Bowhammer drops you off a Warthog and you're free to explore the island, which is quite a beautiful destination, I might add. What I love about this level is the amount of freedom that you get. It really feels like a giant sandbox where you can do whatever you want in whatever order you want. It's not bogged down by some of the limitations of more modern games. You can take the Warthog in places you shouldn't be allowed to go with it. But if you manage to pull it off, the game doesn't punish you for a more inventive playstyle. In fact, if you're savvy enough, it makes some parts even easier.
Okay, let's move out.
On a normal playthrough, the two locations you need to reach are the map room and the security override. The more climatic way of playing is to head for the map room in the tunnel first. Get locked out, fight some hunters with your trusty pistol this time, leave to find the security override, go back into the now unlocked tunnel door, and then finally find the map room.
Analyzing. Halo's control center is located there. That structure appears to be some sort of temple or shrine, if I've interpreted this correctly. Interesting. A shrine is an unlikely place to put such a significant installation.
Cortana to Captain Keyes.
The captain has dropped out of contact, Cortana. His ship may be out of range or having equipment problems.
Keep trying. Let me know when you've re-established contact, and then tell him that the Master Chief and I have determined the location of the control center. We'll be heading there as soon as we're topside.
I mentioned that you can do things in order that you want. You can go to the security override first and deactivate it, which will prevent the door from being shut at all. The dialogue from Cortana will be different depending on the order you do things.
This isn't the map room. Analyzing. This is a security override station for the main facility, located somewhere else on this island.
If you're really skilled behind the wheel, you can skip the security override section altogether. A trick that speedrunners use to shave off a lot of time. As you make your escape from the map room, yet another awesome score plays in the background. I haven't mentioned this yet, but a huge part of Halo's epicness is thanks to the score created by Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatori. Most of the background music for this video is from the original game, but Anniversary's updated score is pretty great as well. I also appreciate that, like the graphics, the Master Chief Collection allows you to switch between the Anniversary score or the original, so if you prefer the classic version, you can always go back to them. In the end of a level, Foehammer picks you up so that you can head underground, making your way to the control room. This level is epic, and is one of the most iconic Halo levels of all time. It's epic because of the awesome score in the intro, the beach encounter with the Marines, the level of freedom and exploration that you had that weren't in other FPSs at the time. It's one of the first missions Bungie worked on for Halo. It's the level that Jason Jones and Joseph Staten used to showcase Halo's gameplay for the first time. It's the demo for the PC port of the game. The best future Halo levels were the ones that perfected the blueprint of this level. It's just an all-around great Halo mission. What more can I say? But it's not my favorite level. The best is still yet to come. Assault on the control room is one of my favorite levels. Story-wise, it's very simple. Just make your way to the control center while traversing through this beautiful new environment. From a gameplay perspective, it's like the game's midterm exam. Everything you've learned from their previous levels comes into play here, while still throwing in some new surprises to keep things fresh. You'll encounter every Covenant species, fight in tight arenas to wide open spaces. You'll see every vehicle, such as the Wraith, Ghost, and Banshee, two of which you can pilot for yourself. There are power weapons like the rocket launcher. You'll find power-ups like active camo that let you skip a battle, if you don't get caught like I did.
Oh my, exposed!
There's a section where you can save some Marines and get to drive a Scorpion tank, and have tank v tank battles. This level just has it all. There weren't a lot of first-person shooters, especially on console, that had vehicle sections as good as this in the early 2000s. Nightfire had a good variety, like being able to drive an Aston Martin in the South Pacific Ocean, but you were limited to vehicle-only levels. I love the original Battlefront, which sported awesome movie-accurate vehicles to extremely clunky movie-accurate vehicles, but that game came out almost 3 years after Halo, and Halo still did it better, in my opinion at least. And while the vehicles aren't perfect in Combat Evolved, it still blows my mind how little they need to be fine-tuned in order to be exceptional in the later games in the franchise.
Oh, I like it.
I'd say this level's biggest flaw is the thing that plagues a lot of the second half of Combat Evolved, which are the copy-pasted rooms. From the bridges to the interior designs of the indoor sections, they are all repeated a lot.
You like this bridge? You're gonna be seeing a whole fucking lot of it again and again and again!
It doesn't ruin the level, but I wish Bungie had the development time to create large levels like this without having to resort to shortcuts. But in the end, this level is amazing. One of the most satisfying parts is stealing a Banshee so that you can make it to the control center quicker.
This is it, Halo's control center. That terminal, try there.
You all right?
Never been better. You can't imagine the wealth of information. The knowledge, so much, so fast. It's glorious.
So,
What sort of weapon is it?
What are you talking about?
Let's stay focused. Halo, how do we use it against the Covenant?
This ring isn't a cudgel, you barbarian. It's something else. Something much more important.
Hold on, let's go back a second. I never understood why she gets sassy with Chief here. It's like, Cortana, you're the one who told him it was a weapon in the first place.
If I'm analyzing this correctly, they believe that Halo is some kind of weapon. One with vast, unimaginable power.
Hi, excuse me. 2 seconds here. I'm the one in the car, remember? Okay, you got it? All right, we're gonna move ahead. Sorry to slow you down.
So why is she making this face at him?
What are you talking about?
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
The Covenant were right. This ring, it's Forerunner. Give me a second to access. Yes, the Forerunner built this place, what they called a fortress world, in order to... Wait. No, that can't be. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known. There must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something, buried in this ring, something horrible, and now they're afraid.
Something buried? Where?
The Captain. We've got to stop the Captain.
Keys? What
The
do we...
weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here, find keys, stop him. Before it's too late!
This cutscene is very important plot-wise. It's also the first time we hear Chief say anything since the end of the first level.
Sure you wouldn't rather take a seat?
We'll be fine.
And it's the first real conversation we get between Chief and Cortana. Jen Taylor as Cortana is great, and of course I love Steve Downes. Both provide phenomenal voice work for their characters. There is no Chief or Cortana without them. Now getting back to the story, this cutscene does a good job of building tension for the next level and for the second half of the game, but I do have some issues with how they choose to build said tension. But we'll come back to this later. 343 Guilty Spark starts you off in a chilling swamp. You're left to investigate alone this time, as Cortana does not accompany you, adding to the feeling of uneasiness. To get the most out of this level, I highly recommend playing on the original graphics with the brightness adjusted. I prefer slightly darker than the recommended setting so you get the full effect of the darkness and get an opportunity to use your flashlight. As you creep through the swamp, you'll find downed ships from both the Covenant and the Marines. It's evident that something serious went down, but as to what, is still unclear. You can listen to a distress call from a downed Pelican to try to get some information. At this point, all we know is that Captain Keyes has been captured by something, and that it's not the Covenant. The Covenant also seem to be out of sorts, as the ones you encounter seem more afraid and fanatical than usual. This level has a very eerie ambience to it. It constantly leaves you with the feeling as if you're being watched, like something's lying beneath the shadows while you're traversing through this creepy environment. As you loom closer to a large structure that the distress call is referring to, you see fleeing grunts and jackals being fired upon by a familiar-sounding weapon. But as you enter the structure, you don't see a single Marine, even though your radar definitely identified friendlies when you first approached.
Shit, where all the homies at?
Come to think of it, elites are oddly missing as well. Inside the structure, an elevator comes up on its own, as if someone wants you to go down it.
You know it's a trap. Of course it is.
Not having Cortana here helps build the spooky environment. I think it helps build the atmosphere by not having Cortana wonder aloud what's going on. It leaves the player alone to think to themselves and ask,
what is this place?
You'll come across so much blood and dead bodies. This is the first time you'll see dead enemies that weren't caused by your actions. It makes you wonder who or what was responsible for all this. Luckily, you'll find a Marine who can calmly clear some things up for you.
Can you tell us what happened?
Or maybe not.
Don't touch me, you freaks! I won't be like you, I'll die first! Find your own hiding place, the monsters are everywhere! Play dead! That's what I did! Play dead! They took the live ones. Oh god, I can still hear them. Monsters! Ah! 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 Just leave me alone! Sarge, Mendoza, Vicente. Oh god, the things took them. Away. They're gone! Get it? Gone! They won't get me! Oh god! Oh god, I don't want to be like them, please! Please no! Please no!
You can put him out of his misery or leave him be. Bungie originally planned a much darker fate for him.
The original plan for Crazy Marine was he was actually going to, when you remember, Marty, we had a fight, not a fight about this, we don't ever fight, but
never fight.
The Crazy Marine was supposed to stay alive, and then when you walked however many world units away from him, and we checked, to see that you weren't looking, we were just going to have this big bang, right? And you would come back and you'd be dead on the floor.
As you go deeper, even Chief will begin to feel like he's being watched. He'll enter a room where he'll find the helmet of Jenkins, hoping his recording can shed some light on what's going on here. I know that this is supposed to be like a bad quality found footage film, but I prefer the filter on the remaster. It's much easier to see what's going on. 500 years in the future and you think that they would have better night vision by this time. The recording follows what Captain Keyes and his squad were up to while Chief and Cortana were trying to access the Silent Cartographer and locate the control center. Part of the reason why I believe it's more cinematic to get locked out of the map room in the Silent Cartographer is because it's the only way to get this radio conversation with Captain Keyes.
Go ahead, Cortana. Have you found the control center?
Negative, Captain. The Covenant have impeded our progress. We can't proceed unless we can disable this installation's security system.
Understood. We're still en route to the objective. I may be out of contact when we get there. Right. Well, let's get this door open.
I'll try, sir. But it looks like these Covenant worked pretty hard to lock it down.
Just do it, son.
Yes, sir.
The Covenant found something. Buried in this ring, something horrible, and now they're afraid.
You got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something. What's going on, soldier?
He's got contact! Lost them! But they're not Covenant! They're just tearing through us! What's the no!
Corporal! Do you copy? Over! Mendoza, get your ass back up to second squad's position and find out what the hell is going on. But I don't have time for your lip, soldier! I gave you an order!
Sarge! Listen!
Weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
Hold still!
Now things are beginning to come together. The captain and his squad encountered some ancient alien parasite that even the Covenant feared. And are in the same room that the Marines in the recording were in. And it sounds like they're on their way back. I love the build-up and the reveal of the Flood. I also like how Chief's first encounter with the Flood is through gameplay rather than a cutscene, so you as a player can experience them firsthand. The Flood infection forms alone aren't too bad, but things are about to get worse, as you find out why none of the elites were around earlier. Now you find yourself surrounded by a new enemy faction. The Flood are an alien parasite frighteningly similar to cordyceps, but they're not taking over ants. They're taking your friends and enemies' bodies alive and basically turning them into vicious
zombies.
If you're interested in cordyceps zombies, check out The Last of Us. What's terrifying about the Flood is that they aren't your standard mindless zombie. The infection process allows them access to the host's brain with their knowledge and memories intact. This is what makes them able to use weapons, vehicles, and even pilot starships. While trying to escape, the elevator you came on gets destroyed. The other elevator you find takes you even deeper into the facility. This elevator, right here, illustrates one of the biggest reasons why the classic visuals are superior to the remaster.
Blood. Sometimes it sets my teeth on edge.
The original looks like a Gusher commercial, showcasing the ruthless indifference the Flood have towards their enemies as they paint the walls with their insides. The remaster doesn't do this scene justice. You'll fight your way through waves of seemingly endless Flood. You'll witness just how lethal they can be as they make short work against the Covenant and Marines. You'll breathe a sigh of relief when you reach the elevator out of here, and meet up with some survivors as you escape the facility.
Sir, thank God you're here. We've been lost out here for hours. After we lost contact with the rest of the mission, we headed for the RV point, and then these things, they ambushed us. We gotta get out of here.
As you try to regroup with Fohammer for extraction, you're introduced to a new character. One you might recognize if you've watched the terminals.
Greetings. I am the monitor of Installation 04. I am 343 Guilty Spark. Someone has released the Flood. My function is to prevent it from leaving this installation, but I require your assistance. Come, this way.
I really like this level. After Assault in the Control Room, it felt like we've mastered the art of taking down the Covenant. Just when we felt confident that we knew everything, the game throws a curveball that affects both the gameplay and story with the introduction of the Flood. I also really like the visual storytelling that this level lays out, taking out suspenseful and horror elements. It's not exactly System Shock 2, and by today's standards it's not very scary at all, but it was a nice introduction to what horror first-person shooters could be on the console. For me, it was a nice gateway to awesome horror FPSs like Fear 1 and 2 that would come out several years later. My main wish was that the Anniversary design didn't miss the mark so much with this level. The desolate swamp gets turned into a beautiful rainforest. On Anniversary, I feel like I'm on Pandora from Avatar. Okay, that actually makes it sound kind of cool. But the point is, the environment feels way off, and it is not an improvement. If they had to change something from the original, they should have made this place look more ancient, run down, and dark, emphasizing how old this place is and forcing you to really make use of your flashlight. Kind of like what the concept art for this project looked like, which makes me scratch my head as to why they didn't follow through with that direction. The library. Everyone's least favorite level, and you know what? I actually don't hate it. So for the story, 343 Guilty Spark teleports Chief into the library, the place containing the index. The index will activate Halo, which is the key to defeating the Flood. You have to reach the very top floor to access it. Why the monitor didn't just teleport Chief to the top to begin with? Well, I guess we still need a level to play, right?
Is that it?
I was critical of the changes made for Anniversary in the last level, but aside from being too bright, something that plagues most of Anniversary, I actually like many of Anniversary's updates here.
We've done some deliberate things. The library is easier to navigate now. We use lighting and textures to make it a little bit simpler.
The pillars are covered in holograms on one side, or they're more decorated on the other side. From what we've noticed, it actually seems to help people that aren't familiar with the library figure out where they're going.
This level is still challenging enough. Even if you're less likely to get lost now, thanks to the lighting and the arrows that have been added, I think 343's heart was in the right place with these redesigns, even if I don't agree with some of them. If 343 Guilty Spark was a house of horrors, the library is an intense thrill ride. The theme that plays when the Flood first come pouring in still makes me feel tense.
No, 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 no! Wait. Wait!
The music's getting faster!
There you go, you stinking filtrets!
Stop playing that music! Stop it, please! I'm begging you!
The Flood also get a makeover, and I think they look way better than they did before. The consistency in their design from Halo 3 is apparent and works really well here.
It looks alien, but it looks reasonable. It looks rational. You managed to capture this organic look that I really enjoy.
In some ways, they look even more accurate to Combat Evolved's original concept art. The intensity of this level on Legendary is surreal. Trying to overcome seemingly endless corridors filled to the brim with Flood, working your way up as things get worse and worse, with very few breaks in between. It reminds me of classic games where you just push yourself to the very brink to succeed, even though it's impossible. But unlike classic games and challenge modes, you can complete this level. The monitor also adds some tension to this level with his antics.
Please wait here.
Hell no, let's get the hell out of here! Come on, man!
I'm not ashamed. I exploit any advantage I can get, whether it's a grenade jump, skipping corridors, or hiding in areas where you have to wait for the monitor to get back. I'll do it all. I've touched on this before, but I like how the gameplay has been altered since the introduction of the Flood. Grunts and Jackals go down with headshots, elites go down after draining their shields and health, hunters are defeated after shooting their backs. Now you must figure out how to defeat an enemy that is seemingly endless and gets up after being taken down. Kind of like a Crimson Head.
Which leads me to my second rule, the double tap. In those moments when you're not sure the undead are really dead, don't get all stingy with your bullets. I mean, one more clean shot to the head.
This level gets a lot of flack, and maybe some of it's warranted, and maybe some of it isn't. The copy-pasted sections are kind of lazy and lack the creativity we know Bungie are capable of, and it can get tiresome fighting such a relentless enemy. But I do think that's part of the point. We get to see through gameplay just how dangerous the Flood can be and how quickly they can take over. By the conclusion of this level, you'll feel worn out, but it's very rewarding to overcome such a challenge. As much as some may hate it, this level is basically a rite of passage for every Halo fan, especially on Legendary. But I'll admit, the Rocket Flood are an absolute menace.
You may now retrieve the index. Protocol requires that I take possession of the index for transport. The Flood is spreading. We must hurry.
Alrighty, we're more than 2/3 through.
Let's do this.
Spark teleports Chief back to the control room to activate Halo, but everything is not how it seems.
That final step is reserved for you, Reclaimer. Hog, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
Cortana.
I've spent the last 12 hours cooped up in here watching you toady about, helping that thing get set to slit our throats.
Hold on now. He's a friend.
Do you have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
Yes. Activate Halo's defenses and destroy the Flood, which is why we brought the Index to the control center.
I can't really explain it, but I really like how matter-of-fact Chief is here.
That is absolutely unacceptable.
Sod off!
What impertinence! I shall purge you at once!
You sure that's a good idea?
It's also interesting how the Index can just be solid or virtual at whim.
Do what? I have the Index. You can just float and sputter.
The Flood is spreading. If we activate Halo's defenses, we can wipe them out.
You have no idea how this ring works, do you?
To be completely fair, he said,
I don't understand.
And then you said,
there's no time. Get out of here.
Last time you guys talked, you didn't give him a lot to work with.
Halo doesn't kill Flood. It kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Is it true?
More or less. But you already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you?
Left out that little detail, did he?
That almost went horribly wrong.
There is no choice. We must activate the ring.
Get us out of here.
If you are unwilling to help, I will simply find another. Still, I must have the Index. Give your construct to me, or I will be forced to take her from you.
That's not going to happen.
Chief is a badass.
Save his head. Dispose of the rest.
Before we move on to the rest of this level, let's take a step back. I mentioned earlier that I didn't like how things are left off in Assault in the control room. I like the twist of the Flood, the reveal of Halo's true purpose, and the betrayal of Guilty Spark, but I don't think it's executed as well as it could have been. After Cortana learns about the Flood and Halo, this should have been her immediate reaction.
Me, inside your head, now.
They should have left to go stop Captain Keyes together. On the way there, she could have filled him in about the dangers of the Flood and the secrets of Halo, instead of being needlessly vague like this.
Get out of here, find Keyes, stop him.
The game gives no valid reason as to why Cortana needed to stay behind and have Chief go after Captain Keyes alone. From a storytelling standpoint, the reason is simple. The level 343 Guilty Spark is much more ominous when traversing without that friendly voice in the back of your head, and most importantly, keeping the reveal of the Flood a secret. But the in-universe explanation, or lack of one, doesn't really make sense. While I understand the urgency of stopping Keyes before the Flood are released, it doesn't make any sense as to why Cortana can't tell Chief about them beforehand.
I don't know about you, but I usually like a little more intel with my intel.
So, I spent some time doing a small rewrite for this. A rewrite that would keep the Flood a secret and give a reason as to why Cortana couldn't say anything. Here goes. The scene starts off just like before.
You alright?
Never been better.
But that high quickly turns into concern as she learns more about Halo.
Now, all we need to do is...
This can't be right.
But it's not just the secrets of Halo that's troubling her. She feels as if she's slipping away.
Chief, I'm slipping.
Something in the control center is rejecting her. She's phasing in and out, giving what little information she can while she still can. The most important being stopping the captain. Chief tries to pull her out of the console. Cortana tells Chief saving the captain is a top priority before vanishing.
Stop them, Chief! Look, a lot of people are going to die if you don't get moving. Chief, go!
Cortana!
By the time Chief pulls her out, it's too late. She's trapped somewhere in the control center. Chief is unsure on what to do and reflects on the mission.
Which is where you come in, Chief. Get Cortana off this ship. Keep her safe from the enemy. If they capture her, they'll learn everything. Force deployment, weapons research. Earth.
I understand.
He heeds Cortana's words, wondering what she was trying to warn him about. Her last words to him were to leave her behind and to stop the captain. He reluctantly leaves, knowing he can't save her right now, and the greater good is to save someone he can. The captain. This rewrite is meant to accomplish a few things. It gives a reason as to why Cortana couldn't warn Chief about the Flood. She only had a few seconds, and the only word she could get out was to stop Captain Keyes. It explains why she couldn't go with Chief. And the tension is brought up an additional level in this scenario because both Captain Keyes and Cortana are in danger from unknown entities. Cortana trapped in the control center and Keyes with some unknown faction. Chief's ultimate duty of keeping Cortana safe from the enemy is held in jeopardy. With everything going on, it almost makes you miss when the Covenant were the main threat. When Chief meets Spark for the first time, he agrees to help so quickly because of his concern for Cortana and Spark's promise to save her if he retrieves the index. But what we don't know is that Spark already knows about Cortana. In fact, it was his plan to separate the two in the first place. The result? He got his beloved Reclaimer, the one who can activate Halo, away from the troublesome AI who can stop his plans from coming to fruition. After 100,000 years of planning and patiently waiting, the Monitor would finally get to fulfill his purpose yet again. During Spark's long years in isolation, he did begin to show signs of rampancy. It would be cool to showcase that and hint at his deception during gameplay with him unintentionally wandering aloud just a little too much around Chief, as if he's flaunting just how clever he thinks he is.
I am a genius.
It wouldn't spoil anything, but would make you raise an eyebrow while you're playing through the library. Kind of like how there are clues about the Flood if you look hard enough when playing the level 343 Guilty Spark. I think Spark's plan would make Chief appear less reckless during the twist reveal.
Left out that little detail, did he?
Chief was being deceived from the very beginning, doing what he thought was best to save everyone from the Flood by activating the ring. Or, so we thought at the time, when the most important people were MIA. Spark's plan almost worked. His one oversight? Underestimating Cortana.
Oh, really?
The rest of the scene can play out similarly to before, leading us right back to the beginning of this level. But anyways, that was my take on this, and it was definitely an improvement. I hope. Now, back to the level.
Look out!
You suck!
I almost forget about this part every time I play. You're just chilling, enjoying the cutscene, maybe even put down the controller for a second. Then wham! Right back to it. Halo 2's level Gravemind is worse than this, as far as rough level starts go, but this level may be a close second. You aren't left completely helpless though. You start off with a plasma pistol, which can make short work of the Sentinels.
Now he's got a plasma pistol. Somebody explain that to me. I swear he had an AR.
Explain to me how you missed that first Sentinel.
We can't let the Monitor activate Halo. We have to stop him. We have to destroy Halo.
It's so nice having Cortana back.
So you did miss me.
So anyways, her plan now is to destroy Halo. But before we can do that, we must play Assault in the control room. Again.
Oh, we've got to take to the piss! We've just busted our asses to get to this LZ, and now they want us to go all the way back down!
I told you we'd see all these rooms and bridges a lot.
Again and again and again!
While many parts of this level are recycled from before, the gameplay is altered quite a bit. This time around, you have Covenant, Flood, and Sentinels all fighting against each other.
The enemy of my enemy?
They're all our enemy.
I really like this development. This is the only level that has every enemy and every enemy faction in one place. Every target has a different weakness, and it really forces you to adapt your approach when confronting them. Or not confronting them.
You might consider sitting this one out.
Ain't got nothing to do with me.
Games like GoldenEye, and to some degree Nightfire, had it to where it didn't really matter what weapons you carried with you most of the time. Every enemy basically went down the same way.
I got no time to think.
Just beat him senseless and you'll win.
But here you really had to think about which two weapons you wanted to carry at any given time. Covenant weapons don't work well against the Flood, but work well against Sentinels. Human weapons don't work well against Shielded Covenant, but work well against the Flood. It's dangerous out there, and you must make informed decisions when choosing which pair of weapons you want to commit to. In addition to the gameplay alterations that this level provides, I also like it from an immersion perspective. In the levels prior, other than 343 Guilty Spark and the library, the Covenant are just on patrol, waiting for you to do something. Witnessing your enemies and your other enemies fight each other makes the overall world and conflict feel so much larger. To go completely out of left field, let's talk about Morrowind for a second. Even though Morrowind has a giant open world with a ton of stuff going on, no one in that universe really acts like it. They're just standing around waiting for you to interact with them.
Come on, I haven't got all day, you know.
In the two Betrayals, you get to witness firsthand of the consequences of the Flood's release and how the Covenant and Sentinels are forced to respond to it. It makes the world feel like there's more going on than just what the Chief and Cortana are doing. I can understand why some may take issue with this level, being that it heavily relies on reusing previous assets, but in execution, I think it's one of the better missions of the campaign.
Let's find a ride and get to the captain.
No, that'll take too long.
You have a better idea?
There's a teleportation grid that runs throughout Halo. That's how the Monitor moves about so quickly. I learned how to tap into the grid when I was in the control center. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of energy.
Something tells me I'm not gonna like this.
but I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging your shields. Needless to say, I think we should only try this once.
Why is that, Joe? So how are you going to distract people from saying, why haven't you been using this method of transportation this whole time?
Worst cinematic in the game?
Keys, the penultimate level of the campaign, and I kind of don't like it so much. It's basically the Truth and Reconciliation. Again, where we must rescue Captain Keyes. Again. Cortana manages to teleport us closer to her desired location than Spark did in the library, but it almost feels like a tease because the level forces us to go a very roundabout way to get to the captain, even though he's only a room away. There's a grav lift that ferries troops and supplies between the ship and the surface. That's your way in. Again.
This grav lift wasn't quite as much fun as the Truth and Reconciliation grav lift.
The Truth and Reconciliation is already a middle-of-the-road level for me to begin with, and basically being forced to retread the same level and themes becomes very tedious. Yes, the Flood are here this time, and they do admittedly have some cool parts.
Look, in the corners. The Flood are gathering bodies here.
But even fighting them in this level isn't as much fun as it was just a level prior. It doesn't help that they just endlessly spawn in every corridor throughout the level.
I don't think it was infinite so much as it became more and more demonic as time went by.
Certainly not the 30 seconds of fun we all talk about.
I'd say one of the things I like a little more this time around are the captain's lines. Saving Captain Keyes feels so much more time sensitive and desperate when you hear him being tortured as you progress.
Captain? Captain? I've lost him.
Gave you an order, soldier. Now pull out!
He's delirious. In pain. We have to find him. The captain, his vitals are fading. Please, Chief, hurry!
Now, I'd like to say that I was the guy who said we need to have Captain Keyes say, Chief, leave me. Because I said we need to have a reason why you're looking for Captain Keyes and you believe that he might be on there. Just want you guys to know that.
I think, Marty, that was a really good suggestion.
That was the second time you saved Halo 1.
Twice.
This is where you really started to feel sorry for the Covenant. Yeah. And a little bit for Keyes, too.
Captain, he's one of them.
By the time you find him, it's too late, but you still need his neural implants at least. Chief kind of unceremoniously punches him in the face to get to them. This Flood form is called a Proto-Gravemind. This, and the terminal that follows, is where the anniversary version really shines. I love all the added details here. It's not just one big goop of keys hanging in between. You can see the faces of its other victims and body parts being smushed together to form this collective Flood body. And the amazing terminal I mentioned almost an hour ago is none other than the one right before us now. It is an adaptation from part of the book Halo the Flood, the novelization of this game by William C. Dietz. The terminal follows Captain Keyes as he struggles to resist becoming part of the Proto-Gravemind. In my opinion, this terminal extracts the best qualities from this passage of the book and transcends them significantly. You can hear the struggle in Keyes' voice as he tries to remember who he is and what happened to him.
God, it hurts. This will never work, you Covenant bastards. I'll never lead you to Earth. Oh God, you don't want Earth. You want everything. Get out of my head. Miranda, is that you? Forget everything.
Keyes was just too badass, even while in this shape, trying to keep the location of Earth safe by pushing it deep within his mind. The Flood are persistent, searching his memories, forcing him to forget the people he treasures most as he continues to barely hold on.
No more what you were. Memories. Emotions. All is now ours. You will not have me! We already do.
Wow, I just love the addition of this terminal so much. It hints at what a threat a fully developed Gravemind could be, gives us glimpses of other important characters that were significant to Captain Keyes without spoiling who they are. I know this remaster was partially made for longtime fans, but if this was your first time playing, it's still cool seeing and wondering who these people close to Keyes were. But here, it gives you a nice sample of what's to come. This terminal is so good, in fact, but it's kind of frustrating that the others don't match the quality of it. It's also unfortunate that this is where the good stuff for this level comes to an end. It concludes by doing the same thing we did last time, commandeering an enemy vehicle. It's bad enough that a lot of this level is made up of copy-pasted corridors, but it's also reusing story beats by making you save the captain at a level that's very similar to the last mission you had to save him in.
Exactly the same.
I don't hate this level, it's just disappointing. So to change things up, I'm going to show an example of another game that does something similar, but in a better way. In the Nightfire mission Night Shift, the game subverts your expectations of 007 by making you actually behave like a spy for once. You'll infiltrate an office building which you will have innocent guards patrolling. You must find other ways to get through without killing them. You can use a tranquilizer gun, a stunner, flash grenades, or an old-fashioned punch in the face.
Hit the alarm!
Methods of combat we don't normally use. When you return in a later level, the game plays back to a more familiar, guns-blazing, action-packed game we all know and love. Even though it's in the same location, it feels different, even incorporating some new sections as well. But Mission Keys is basically the Truth and Reconciliation, but with Flood. Not bad, but it could be better. Alright, so we're finally here. The last level of the campaign. The Maw. I like how the shot of the Pillar of Autumn mirrors the very first scene of the game. It's a great contrast of when Halo and the ship were new and mysterious to us. The Pillar of Autumn that was a once powerful marvel is now a pitiful wreck. A monument to the kind of threat Halo, the Covenant, and the Flood possess to humanity. I also think that the anniversary version of this location looks fantastic. Chief and Cortana make it to the ship, and it's nice to see that they still have a sense of humor despite everything.
This thing is falling apart.
It'll hold.
We're not gonna make it.
We'll make it.
Pull up! Pull up! You did that on purpose, didn't you?
One question. Why didn't you land closer to the bridge? Also, they came here alone. I guess Fohammer was busy or something? So there is a lot going on in this level. Chief and Cortana need to make it to the bridge so they can self-destruct the ship so it will destroy Halo.
There. That should give us enough time to make it to a lifeboat and put some distance between ourselves and Halo before the detonation.
But Flood are here with the intention to repair the ship and escape Halo. The Covenant are also here, and lastly, so is the Monitor.
Oh, hell.
To think that you would destroy this installation as well as this record. I am shocked. Almost too shocked for words.
He stopped the self-destruct sequence. He must be trying to take the core offline. Even if I could get the countdown restarted, I don't know what to do.
How much firepower would you need to crack one of the engine's shields?
Not much. A well-placed grenade, perhaps, but why?
I really love the role reversal here. For once, Cortana is the one who's stumped, and Chief's the one who comes up with the plan. Although, it is in character for him to have the plan that involves destroying stuff. I do have a minor issue with this part, though. According to Pixar's 22 rules of storytelling, it's good writing to have coincidences that get characters into trouble.
Right. Rule number 15, a hero is only as good as his weapon!
And while I respect that plot formula being loosely followed here, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Cortana needed Captain Keyes' neural implants to start the self-destruct sequence.
We need to get to the bridge. From there, we can use the captain's neural implants to initiate an overload of the ship's fusion engines.
But Spark can just stop it at will without them? It also makes the level keys feel redundant in a way, since apparently we don't need the implants to blow the ship up after all. But I guess we still needed closure for Captain Keyes, because at the time, we thought we could still save him. But now it's time to start blowing some stuff up.
Okay, I'm coming with you.
Grab some explosives, destroy the core, and take down the Monitor. I guess not take down the Monitor.
Next time, baby.
Even though this level reuses assets from the first level, there's still plenty of new stuff going on to keep things exciting. The final Warthog run is one of my favorite last runs of any game.
It's lights out and away we go, and it's a decent start.
Of course, the game needs to tie up one more loose end before we can leave.
Echo 419! She's gone. Calculating alternate escape route. Ship's inventory shows one longsword fighter still docked in Launch Bay 7. If we move now, we can make it.
Come on, the trench run, this is one of the best endings in the history of games. I love this ending.
You're so humble.
I concur. This is an awesome way to finish the game. A thrilling drive and race against time, with yet another iconic score in the background. What more could you ask for?
That's the ship! Move! We need to get aboard now!
We're cutting it close.
The game concludes with a narrow escape, but I can't help but feel like we forgot something. Where's Sergeant Johnson?
This is it, baby. Hold me.
He was probably busy or something.
So, Johnson, when you gonna tell me how you made it back home in one piece?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
My ass!
All joking aside, Sergeant Johnson's escape and fate are all covered in Halo's expanded lore. But when you're playing for the first time, it's left up to the player's imagination as to what happened to him. The game has somewhat of a solemn ending. Almost everyone aboard the Pillar of Autumn perished.
Did anyone else make it?
Scanning. Just dust and echoes. We're all that's left. We did what we had to do for Earth. An entire Covenant armada obliterated, and the Flood. We had no choice. Halo, it's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.
Yeah, it's not over. After the credits, it's shown that Guilty Spark survived Halo's destruction, and a hidden terminal reveals what Spark is up to, which leads us nicely into Halo 2. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Let's just enjoy an awesome end to an awesome game, as Chief can finally relax and take off his helmet.
Who are you under there?
Hello, I am Master Chief.
This is awesome. Like, Halo 1 had a beautiful simplicity that, doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. This is awesome. Like, this is inspiring to see.
That was Halo Combat Evolved. After replaying every version of it, it surprises me at how well it holds up to this day. I had no trouble bouncing back from CE to Infinite to any other modern first-person shooter and back to CE again. I replayed other 6th generation FPSs to gain perspective on the genre at the time, so I could effectively compare them to Halo. And while I still enjoyed playing them again, they haven't aged nearly as well. Personally, it took some time to readjust playing an old school game before it felt natural again. I didn't have that problem with Combat Evolved. Also, each subsequent game I played that released after 2001 revealed Halo's influence on the genre more and more. To see Halo's influence on another series, then let's look no further than Timesplitters. Timesplitters Future Perfect to be specific. The first Timesplitters was a launch title for the PlayStation 2 and was released before Halo. Timesplitters 2 came out after Halo, but most likely didn't have enough time in development to implement or adapt anything meaningful from Halo. But Timesplitters Future Perfect did, the third game of the franchise. Things that Future Perfect has that were at least partially influenced by Halo. A fully fleshed out campaign story with a badass Space Marine main character. A computer genius that assists you throughout the campaign. An older military leader that gives you your mission. Melee attacks. A grenade button. Vehicle sections. An announcer and multiplayer.
Killing spree.
Killing spree.
A crazy NPC in a spooky level.
Stay back! Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things! I'll blow your brains out! Get away from me!
It's not real. It's a bad dream. It's not real. It's not real. Oh, please make it go away.
I could do this all day. Other than influences in the gameplay, I know that Timesplitters intentionally parodied Halo and incorporated other elements of pop culture.
On the Brotherhood of Ultrascience.
No ticket.
No ticket.
And to the franchise's credit, it has many unique things going for it that set it apart as well. But Halo's influence on it can't be ignored. I mean, check out the teaser for Timesplitters 4. Even Halo has taken inspiration from other things. Check out Aliens.
All right, sweethearts, you heard the man and you know the drill, assholes and elbows. Hudson, come here. Come here.
You heard the lady. Move like you got a purpose.
Absolutely badasses. Let's pack them in. Get in there.
That's an order, soldier.
Timesplitters wasn't alone. Pretty much every FPS that came out after 2001 borrowed something from Halo one way or the other. Now it's just a standard of the genre, and games that didn't follow this blueprint, intentional or not, feel really off or dated. Halo isn't just a fun game you can get some friends together to play, although it most certainly is that, but more importantly, It continued what GoldenEye started, proving that high-quality first-person shooters belonged on a console just as much as they do on the PC. Combat Evolved being such a monumental achievement led to so many games trying to follow in its footsteps. This game started something so immense that it led to over 10 games in the series, books, graphic novels, movies, and more. There's even a show created by Rooster Teeth that has over 300 episodes. The show Red vs. Blue was recorded by using multiplayer gameplay.
Hey, yeah? You ever wonder why we're here? It's one of life's great mysteries, isn't it? Why are we here? I mean, are we the product of some cosmic coincidence, or is there really a God watching everything? You know, with a plan for us and stuff? I don't know, man, but it keeps me up at night.
This is a real ongoing thing that all started from Combat Evolved. It's just a testament to the amazing game Bungie created. It was a real pleasure looking over all the resources they had available about CE's development. When researching Halo's development and post-game commentary, I got the sense that it was just a passionate team that got together to create a game that they themselves wanted to play. I also enjoyed researching 343's development on Halo Anniversary. Despite some of the issues I have with it, I could tell they were excited about the project, taking the reins of Halo and sharing it with old fans and for a whole new generation. Things like the Master Chief Collection had a mountain of issues that could warrant its own video, in fact. But in the end, as it stands today, I'm glad it exists. It allowed me to relive some of the great memories I had when I played Halo PC's multiplayer for the very first time. Combat Evolved was fun then and is still fun today. It modernized the first-person shooter genre, where its influence is still so ever clear. It started a franchise that spawned many sequels and is still being held responsible for selling Xboxes. I love Halo, and I assume if you've made it this far into the video, you do too. This was Halo Combat Evolved from beginning to end. If you enjoy content like this, then please leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and maybe comment about where you agree or disagree with me. Also, let me know what game you'd like to see me cover next. This kind of support really helps me and the channel a lot, so thank you. But anyways, I'm really tired. We're at the end and it's almost time for me to go. But on the bright side of being at the end right now is that when we meet here again, we'll be right at the beginning of another awesome game.